Hello and welcome to the Counter Option Podcast. You've got Joe.
Go Big Red.
Go Big Red. You got Tyler here, Boomer Sooner.
Yeah, two rivals became friends and decided to do a podcast. Who thought that would ever happen?
But this is going to be a college football podcast. We're going to give you our takes, opinions on matters, and
we're not always right. We'll be wrong, but it's what we think and how we feel. We talk about a lot of different stuff all the time, and we figured this would be the best platform for us to kind of get going.
We might have some special guests here in the near future. Who knows? Yeah. But, well, I guess we can just start it off. So the 2023 season has ended.
Michigan won.
Michigan's our national champion after all the bullshit they went through all year with the NCAA and the sign stealing. Their team was resilient and didn't let any of the outside noise get to them. And, yeah, they beat an undefeated Washington team. Which
really good team, too. But you'd also have to say it's really good coaching down the stretch, too, when you look at the Big Ten, coming out of Big Ten against Ohio State and even in the championship and through the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They showed that they were a better coached team than most people thought maybe they would have been amidst the whole sign stealing stuff.
I mean, do you got to give more credit for that? I mean, it was the interim, right?
Sharon, I think, you have to give him more credit than people are giving him. You know, and I think Harbaugh's going to go pro.
I have to agree.
All
I think
signs are pointing that way.
Seems like he's tired of all the nonsense with college football, the transfer portal, with his dealings with the NCAA,
the holding hands of the kids, all that stuff. I don't think he wants to do it anymore.
I agree, and he's been a successful NFL coach. So I mean, if he gets the right opportunity, which
it sounds like Chargers, and but why not? You have Justin Herbert, and it's kind of the right team.
Very similar scenario, like when he was a young quarterback in San Francisco with Kaepernick. He can come in there, revitalize that defense, get some more young weapons in there with Herbert, and he could make a run at things. So I do think if the Chargers end up hiring him, that would make the AFC West in particular a very tough division. But it does seem like he's going to be leaving. Yeah. And if that's the case, if you want continuity,
you keep more. You got to give it to Sean Moore or Jesse Minter. You got to give it to one of the two. I don't see anybody else. I think you bring somebody in, you're going to lose everybody.
You're hitting the reset button a bit. And kind of what Alabama's going through with Saban retiring.
And it was even with Nebraska when Scott Frost came in. Mm-hmm. I mean, he ditched everybody that was there. He didn't want to play any of those kids, even if they were better than the kids he brought in.
So you have to re-recruit.
You got to re-recruit them. You got to keep them around. And I think if you keep Sharon Moore or Jesse Minter, both of those two, I think you're going to keep the continuity and everybody's going to want to stay.
I agree. And I mean, you have to. I mean, if you're a recruit, you see Moore still there. Like, seems like all the pieces are still there for a successful program. I don't see them taking much of a dip. I mean, Michigan's obviously already such a big name, but
there is a side of me that thinks it will. I mean, look at Ohio State when Urban left.
Yeah.
I mean, Day still hasn't had rock solid years. He
struggles in the big games.
Yeah, he's recruited well. He's always recruited well, but he just can't beat the Michigans. He can barely beat Notre Dame, and he goes over
fights, skip holes, or loopholes.
Exactly. And he goes to like the playoff, and then they have a really good game, and then they lay an egg the next one. And it's just it's going to be interesting to see what happens there because there's too many good teams coming into the Big Ten now, where you're like, if we lay an egg, are we still gonna be the number one team in there? I don't think so. I think if SC gets it figured out with that school, because they can recruit very well there.
And Lincoln is very much in do or die mode. Like all of his coaching moves that he's made this year, like if they don't,
he's done.
He's done.
He's done. But the thing is it's. Nobody really realizes how hard it is to go from one conference to another.
It's true.
And really do what you did in another conference. The Pac-12 for the longest time was just USC, UCLA, and Oregon. And that was it. Mm-hmm. Nobody else meant anything. And then Washington was good from here and there. Yeah. Oregon State got really good under Jonathan Smith.
He had the Leach years at Washington State.
You can't discount those years.
No.
I mean, with Gardner and those boys, like they would throw the ball around the yard and surprise everybody.
On occasion come up and beat a USC or Oregon,
or even walk into a Texas and beat Texas. Yeah. Like nobody saw it happening, and they would just show up.
Did they beat them? Did Washington State beat Texas?
I don't know, but I don't think so. But like, if they did, I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen. Because I mean, let's be real. When
Texas dropped back to Maryland, those 2 years,
and then let's be real with Leach though. When he was at Tech and he was in the Big 12, he wreaked havoc there with
Crabtree.
With Crabtree and Sonny Cumbie and even Kingsbury. Yeah, I mean, even Oklahoma had problems with him, and he was an Oklahoma OC for a while.
It's true. Yeah.
No,
he struggled. I mean, Bob Stoops, I think when he hired him, he was looking for like an offensive scheme that gave him fits, and he wanted that there at Oklahoma.
Because his defense was going to give everybody fits, and they did.
They did.
And they did.
But yeah, I mean, so you have it's real interesting because you have these two teams that were in the Final Four. You have Michigan, who won, looking like they're going to have to replace their coach, and then you have Alabama with Nick Saban, who's retiring probably the best college football head coach ever to do it, and now they're looking to replace him with DeBoer.
And I'm not against DeBoer, but I don't want that job.
Who would?
Nobody. But
he's a crazy man. I'm sure he's getting through. I haven't looked at the contract. Throw tons of money to come do it.
But think about the pressure. You'll
never live up to it.
No, but you have to recruit at the highest level. And I know he's gone to all these like sitting head coaches he's worked with before and have brought them onto his staff, but I don't think it's gonna matter.
Still has Saban in his back pocket to kind of bounce things off of, but it's still.
But like Brandon Walker said, he's like, I would just float into the abyss. I have nothing to give anybody. It's true though,
He's accomplished everything that you can as a head. Yeah.
Six national championships in what?
At one
years?
School, yeah.
That's Belichick level.
Mm-hmm. They're buddies.
Yeah, they're best. They're best friends. But it's just, who would have ever thought that would have been a thing? I didn't.
No, and it
usually that's 6 titles is stretched out over a 20, 25, 30, 40 year career at a school.
Well, who was the one that did it for college basketball, like in the 70s or 80s? UCLA coach. Wooden. Yeah, I mean that's. Yeah. You're talking about another legendary, So I mean, but it also seems like his system of doing things is kind of become archaic, and that might be partly the reason why he's retiring. It's no longer can he have the stranglehold that he once did over college football, and it really does feel more than ever that things are wide open.
Yeah. Yeah, and even with Washington going to get Jedd Fisch, I mean, is that going to be a cakewalk for Jedd Fisch? Because I don't think so.
No.
I mean, I really don't. I mean, when you look at like McMillan went pro, Odunze's going pro. Who's Jalen Polk? Is he the other receiver? He's going pro, and so is Penix. So you're losing the big core of all your.
Who's to say that DeBoer doesn't try to bring some guys over to Alabama too?
He will.
Yeah.
He will. Like Will Rogers just stepped back into the portal. I think he's going to go to Alabama because he wants to play for DeBoer. Do I think it's going to work down there? Maybe, but they got Jalen Milroe.
Oh yeah, but then if that's the case, does he go somewhere? But either quarterback, after seeing what DeBoer did with Penix, it'd have to be like.
If I was Milroe, I'd stay. No. I would really stay because he brought Grubb with him, and if he didn't bring Grubb, I wouldn't stay.
He doesn't have to worry about Bill O'Brien anymore.
No, not at all, not at all. But I saw he was being mentioned for I think the Ohio State offensive coordinator job or something.
Bill
like
O'Brien.
That. And I was like, y'all are crazy. What are you doing? He couldn't even turn Mac Jones into a decent quarterback in the NFL. What makes you think he's going to do well at Ohio State? They're going to run him out of there just like they did in Alabama. I think with DeBoer, he's got 2.5 years there, and if he doesn't make the playoffs in the 2.5 years he's there, Lane Kiffin will be the head coach.
Ooh. I mean, I like it. But it's an exciting hire.
Well, it's the right hire. And it's the home run hire.
Familiarity.
Yeah. But I don't think Lane wanted to take that job right now because he didn't want to follow Saban.
You want to distance that, yeah.
Be the guy after the guy.
And, I mean, with the amount of money that Ole Miss has spent this cycle in the portal, like, who's to say that they can't catch lightning in a bottle this year? And, it
could happen.
It could happen.
Very well could happen. I mean, it happened at LSU with Kelly.
Right.
And he's being linked to the Michigan job, too. And I don't see where that's a fit.
I don't know. You think it's more of a fit than LSU?
I do. However, it's hard to sit there. You
just have to start over again.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to say that he's a fit at Michigan more than he is at LSU with what he did with that offense this year, with Neighbors and Jaden. Is it Jalen or Jaden? Because I always get him and KU guy mixed up. I think it's Jaden Daniels.
Jaden is LSU, and then Jalen plays at KU.
Yeah, so with Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman this year, like, I mean, it's hard to sit there and say Kelly can't coach in the SEC.
Which that's his first Heisman winner, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Because he didn't have anything at Notre Dame. That was actually his best quarterback that he's ever had.
Yeah.
Because Notre Dame couldn't get a quarterback to save their life.
No, but I thought he did a better coaching job at Notre Dame than he would have to at LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people don't give him credit for that.
Defenses.
Oh, they're always good.
Yeah.
They're always good. I honestly thought he was going to skip LSU and go to Michigan State when that opened at one point, because that would have been a better fit for him.
Mm-hmm. Don't have quite the resources that you do at LSU, but
he didn't have much of resources at Cincinnati.
That's
when he won there too.
Very true, and wherever he was before that. I mean, he's kind of a guy he's won at every stop he's been at. It's
hard to say he's not a good football coach, and like fuck you, Brendan Walker. But I know you always sit there and you like to dog on coaches like that, you know. But look at Mississippi State. Yeah, your coach died. I get it. But what have they been after Dak Prescott? Nothing but garbage.
Where's Dan Mullen now?
Right? He's on TV. He's doing press. Like, let him be.
Speaking of which, I mean, so Jeff Lebby now the head coach there. Like, I
think he'll do good.
You think he'll do good?
I think he'll do good.
Expectations are not.
We always talk.
High.
We always talk about that. Like, the expectations are low. Like, that's a school. You go 8-4 every year in football. Mm-hmm. They're not going to care because it's a baseball school.
It's true. Yeah.
They care more about their baseball program than they care about their football program. But Dan Mullen found a way to get to number 2 in the country with a guy like Dak Prescott that nobody thought was going to be good.
It's true.
So it's hard to sit here and say he wasn't a good coach.
No, that's true. And I'm honestly surprised he hasn't, like, wound up in any of these like coaching conversations, like these vacancies that have popped up.
I don't think he wants it. I think he's sitting back at ESPN, seeing everything and
cashing the checks.
Well, yes, but I also think he's saying to himself, the way it's set up now, I don't want a piece of it.
It's a young man's game. Like, I mean, comparing that to like the NFL, because it used to be for the longest time that an NFL job was looked at as a harder, like higher pressure, more difficult, but like
I would say it's not as much if you think about it. Like, you don't work as much as you do in college.
No, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Is like college now.
It's a year round.
Extremely difficult.
It's a year round job.
And with the Pandora's box that's been open with the NIL and the transfer portal, and like you're having to no longer are you just recruiting high school kids. You're having to recruit players from opposing teams and now your own team.
And your kids too. Like, you have to recruit those kids over and over each year. Because if you don't, they're going to the next best situation. And is that beneficial for anybody? No, it's really not. I mean,
it works out for a handful.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, it does. It's like the old school college basketball move. I'll just recruit 3 high schoolers, and then I'll bring in a bunch of transfers, and I'll keep these 3 high schoolers getting better. But back then, nobody left the schools they were recruited to. You know, like Saban walked into high schoolers' living rooms, sat down with them, and kept them for 6 years.
He got 5 stars to come in red shirts.
Yeah. Yes. Any other school, they're leaving.
Right.
It's just crazy. It's who does that? But
Saban.
Yeah, but Saban. But like, even the transfer portal these days isn't as what it's built up to be. Let's be honest. There's still a ton of players in there that don't get on to Power 5 schools or D1 schools, but they end up at like D3 and they do okay down there. They do okay. They don't, jump off the screen at you, but like they're transferring 2-3 times. Make those kids pay the university back whatever they're getting for the scholarship, so they at least learn the lesson of what it means to disappear on a school.
Bring back making them sit out a year.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Because someone's going to say, well, I went to 2 different schools and my coach left each year and I want to keep going.
Certainly. Yeah. There's always going to be a case like that.
And at some point you have to draw a line. And that's where I think the NCAA needs to step in, or these conferences have to step in and say, okay, this is where we're stopping.
They're going to govern themselves, I think, because the NCAA, I feel like...
care. They don't care about football. They care more about baseball, basketball, and like volleyball, like women's volleyball,
like Olympic sports.
Yeah, all the Olympic sports they care about. They don't care about football.
It's because they have no authority. No. I mean, there's no teeth. Like they've been after Harbaugh all year,
but what's come from it?
They still won the national championship.
Like a 3-game suspension at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were talking about end of last year how they thought Michigan was cheating to get in there. I mean, I told you about South Carolina calling Michigan to get a full scouting report on Tennessee because they thought they were going to play Tennessee or some other school, but they were going to play Tennessee, and Michigan thought they were going to play Tennessee in a bowl game, so they fully scouted them, and then they sold the scouting report to South Carolina, and South Carolina beat them that week because they had a full scouting report from top to bottom.
Had all their plays, their calls.
It's insane.
Which, I mean, it's crazy because, it does seem like...
But hats off to them. They put that work in to do it.
Look, there's something to be said doing whatever it takes to win. I mean, certainly. And I think that, Saban was the man he was because of that reason. He would toe the line and probably push the line into cheating, but all the big programs do it. Yeah. I mean, I know Oklahoma's... They're not a choir boy. They've had their share of violations and things like that. But
look at when Matt Rule went on a press conference and he said everybody's trying to do it. It doesn't. We're all trying to do it. And he's like, everyone sits in their press box and they all try to get the signs about what's a pass, what's a run, what's going to be this player, that player, the coverage is this or the coverage is that. Everyone's trying to do it. At the high school level, they have some sort of technology. At the pro level, they have technology, but at college, they don't.
Supposedly, it's because the coaches don't want the change. They like the fact that they can try and guess the calls.
But they need to move to having the speakers in the head in the helmets.
I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, but with this sport in particular, college football, there's so many things that you think. It seems like a no-brainer, and then they go the completely opposite direction. I mean,
yeah, because it seems like they want to make it harder for the kids, and I don't understand it. But it's what it is. We're not going to be the ones that's going to knock on the door in Indianapolis and tell them to change it. I mean, we could
they'd listen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we could petition out there and tell them how we feel, but they're just going to flip us the bird and tell us to go pound sand.
We're still getting tons of views and millions of dollars. I think our product's good.
Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Don't mind us.
Speaking of, I mean, what is the product going to look like next year? Because have we seen our last undefeated national championship or national champion?
It really depends. I mean, you look at what Ohio State's done in the portal this year, and they let Kyle McCord go. Thought they were dumb for that, especially when you watch them play in their bowl game and it was complete, utter hot garbage. And you're just like, what is your deal, Ryan Day? You better have a big plan for that because he won you a ton of football games. He's gotten you to higher rankings. If you can't do that, he's probably going to be fired. And the only person on that staff that will get retained, in my opinion, The two people I should say will be Harsin, their offensive coordinator, but he'll probably get bumped down to the wide receivers again.
Brian Hartline.
Or Hartline, yeah. You're right, Hartline, yeah. And then I think it'll be Larry Johnson, their defensive line coach. Because that guy can recruit that area really, really well, and he coaches those kids.
He's got some skins on the wall. Yeah,
he knows what he's doing.
Players that he put in the NFL.
And if he lets if he goes, there's going to be about every school in the country trying to get him to come there, and he'll end up at like a Florida or Florida State doing the same thing he's been doing. But to the question, I just don't know. Nobody knows.
No.
That's the thing.
It's like we're entering to the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
You've already got it with the transfer portal and NIL, but then talking about like what the format's going to look like next year. I was watching Fine Ball just a minute ago, and they were showing South Carolina's schedule, and it was like back to back to back. They had Ole Miss, then at Bama, then at Oklahoma, and
That's
I'm like,
impossible. That's an impossible schedule for them to really get their footing into anything. It really is.
But you're going to see that with pretty much any schedule because just how, at least with the Big Ten and the SEC, they're so loaded.
You'll see four Big Ten, you'll see 4 SEC schools easy
in the playoff.
In the playoff, yes. So that's going to make up 3/4 of your playoff, just because of who they are and who they play. Because if you're a team like Indiana, we're just going to throw Indiana out there. This isn't going to actually happen, but this is my opinion on it.
Sure.
If Indiana can go to Oregon and beat Oregon, if they can go to SC and beat SC, if they can go to East Lansing and win that game, if they can go to Ann Arbor and win that game, if they can go to Ohio State and win that game, now you can't look at that team and be like, well, you're Indiana. You can't be in there.
Clearly they deserve it.
Yeah, you clearly deserve it. But are they going to go strength of schedule with that? Because like a team like Liberty, who went 13-0 this year and was ranked 25, but had statistically the worst schedule of everybody, are you going to put them in there to watch them get pounced by a team that's like, I don't know,
Georgia.
It's not even a fair game.
No.
But like, are they really going to take actual strength of schedule with these Power 5 schools and the group of fives? Are they going to take that into consideration? Because they have to. And there's always going to be that Notre Dame factor where if
no conference.
Yep, no conference, but they win 9 games a year, they'll be there. They will always be there. That doesn't matter.
Notre Dame, to their credit, even though they're not in a conference, their schedule is usually pretty tough.
Until they get to playing the ACC teams.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing a Clemson every year and a Florida State every year, which they really don't. They play a tough schedule outside of
USC every year. If they can
they play Michigan every year too, right?
They brought that back. If they can get back to playing both of those games like that, those are both very solid games. But yeah, if they're not in a conference, they're gonna have to like go out of their way to schedule some big boys.
You're gonna have to, and if you're in the MAC, you better start like if you're Toledo and you're Jason Candle, you better start playing some big boys to get some eyes on you. Because if you don't, you're not gonna make it. I don't think.
It just seems like to me, it's like, we're talking Division I, but I think it's just at the end of the day, it's going to be these two conferences. You have to consider like the ACC and like the Big 12.
Yeah.
But it does feel like they're at a very severe disadvantage than teams that are in the SEC and the Big 12. Or I'm sorry, the Big 10.
Yeah. But then the other question flips to too: are they going to take like a 4-loss Colorado team over a 2-loss Iowa State team? It's a very real question
for eyeballs.
For eyeball reason.
That Dion factor.
Like Dion's got a lot. He's got a lot. He's got to get done at Colorado. But like, he goes 9-4 next year. I don't see why they don't put him in there.
College football will have a hard time keeping him out. Just the amount of eyeballs that will bring in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a big question there. They go 9-4 and Iowa State goes 11-2. Are you going to let them? You're going to tell Iowa State they can't go in after they beat Colorado? Probably. That's the tough thing.
It's a tough thing. Yeah, and do you think this is at 12 we're going to stand pat, or you think it expands even more?
It's going to expand because people are gonna bitch and moan and whine and cry about it like they did with the 4-team. Now, however, with the 4-team, they should have gone to 6. In my opinion, with that,
have the Power 5
have
conference
the 5 Power
champions
5
and an at-large,
and the best group of 6 or group of 5, whatever that is, that team play in there as well too, because that would have made an even playing field across the board. And I don't think people would have complained as much, but it would have moved to 8 quickly, and then it would have moved to the 12. I think it's going to move to 16. There's a strong possibility of that. Would it go to the top 25? A 25-team playoff?
Maybe.
It's very possible. But I don't see where that's going to benefit anybody.
Let's say where you go 16 to like 32 is the next jump, maybe, right?
Yeah, but
and that's too many.
That's way too many.
So
but then
we're looking
then
at buys maybe with like a 16, and then you add like
the 16.
Maybe you have a 20-team playoff, and like the top 4 teams get a bye or something like that.
But like you go 32, you're gonna have some really bad football. You just are.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna have some really, really bad football. I mean, like look at the college basketball. With their 64 team, like there's some really bad basketball games.
There are.
Someone's going to get boat raced, and you're going to be like, they never should have been there. Forget them. They should never have had the opportunity.
Yeah.
And then you look at like, you go to 4 teams, and it's like, well, I'm Florida State, who definitely didn't deserve to be there this year towards the end of the year, regardless if they had what's his name, Jordan Travis or not. Like, they still look like crap. If you put them against a Georgia in that, which they did play, and Georgia put a foot up their ass and said, you can't, this is it.
It's hard looking at what Georgia did and be like, man, should they have been in the playoff?
But that's where the 5 or the 6 team should have came in. Because I'm okay if a team like Georgia, after the Power 5, is there and the rest of like the group of 6 isn't so great, but you're like, well, just give it to Georgia. I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, they just won the last 2 national championships, lost their only game to Bama in dramatic fashion, or I would say a close game.
Yeah. Let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
A Michigan-led Harbaugh team against a Kirby Smart Georgia team, would that have been a better college football final? That's a tough question, but it's the truth.
I mean, I think so. Because if you look at it, because what Michigan played Alabama in the semifinal, right?
And they had a hard time.
And that was a damn good game.
But they had a hard time. Until they kind of
wore them out.
Until they wore them out, because Michigan has the best front, lines in college football. I truly believe that, in offensive and defensive lines. They were probably top. If they could have done that to Georgia, that would have been an interesting game.
Been impressive.
But
I mean, Georgia's got depth too. Do they have more depth than Bama? Because like what you're talking about is like it was a very like kind of a stalemate until the end, and like if it didn't go to overtime, I think Bama would have beat them. Yeah,
they would have found the chess move more. I think that's what would have happened. We would have had Bama and Washington, because I don't think Texas was going to make it. They're a great football team. They're going to be very tough in the SEC, but Bama and Georgia are the 2 best in the SEC still, even after everyone has left. You can't take that away from Bama right now. They're the reigning champions.
True.
But if I'm Kirby Smart, I better start being the face of that conference.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've actually talked about that like the other day. Who's going to be the face? And you said Lane.
I said Lane. I really do think Lane. Because Lane is charismatic enough and he's ballsy enough to
lightning rod.
To go out there and put lightning in a bottle and shake the whole thing up. Shake it up. I really see that happening. And I don't think I don't think everybody else sees it. I do. Just because he's done so well in the portal. And he was what? Top 8 all year? Quietly.
Yeah.
Very quietly.
I would say like hovering around 10.
But quietly.
But quietly. Mizzou got a lot more press, I felt like.
I think once they lose Burden and they lose a couple more players, they're going to go back to being Missouri.
Yes.
A bottom tier school.
I completely agree. I give them credit. They had a good year, but sustaining success there outside of Pinkel, has anybody ever done it? I don't know.
No, I mean Gary Pinkel's, for as funny as his name is, he was the one guy that found a way to win in the Big 12 when the Big 12 was the best conference, one of the best conferences in college football.
It's true, and he was the coach that ushered them into the SEC, right?
Yeah, for like
two back-to-back SEC East,
and then they got Barry Odom and they hit the toilet bowl real quick. But that's not against Barry Odom. It's one of those schools that you usher in. You got to reshuffle your whole roster, and then you end up having a monumental task. And he's gone on to UNLV and has done well.
Barry Odom.
Yeah.
His brother, Brian Odom, he was the linebacker coach under Grinch at Oklahoma.
Yeah. And
when Riley took the USC job,
he brought them all.
Went out there. But after all the firings that happened at USC this year, a lot of Oklahoma fans wanted Brian Odom back, which is Barry's brother, because of...
Would he come back, though? I mean, that's an honest question.
He's an Oklahoma guy. Now, I don't think he went to the University of Oklahoma, but he's from the state. So I don't know if there's any tie there. We didn't go that route.
Yeah. Who's the linebacker coach there now? Do you know?
They just hired him, and it's... I'm going to look it up here. Avoid the dead air.
Because it's very hard for somebody like Venables to want to turn around and bring somebody in he doesn't know for especially that linebacker position.
Oh yeah.
Because with OU, that's like look at Stutzman. He was a fucking animal this year.
Well, just the amount of growth.
Kanak, Jared Kanak.
Kanak,
however you say it. He's a Kansas boy.
Yeah,
because
was it Wichita?
He was Wichita or something like that. Nebraska tried to get him, and he went to Clemson.
And then Venables told him to stay there, and he's like, "No, I want to come play for you."
Yep, it's the same thing with happened with Dabo. He didn't want to play with somebody other than him.
No, so OU, I believe it was last week, 2 weeks ago, they fired their defensive coordinator. They're mutually split ways with Ted Roof.
That's probably a good move.
Good move.
Roof he did really well. He was D coordinator at Duke, right?
Duke. Yeah, he might have been. He was a head coach. Was it Wake Forest? I'd have to pull up his. He's an old guy. He's been around a while. A lot of experience.
Yeah. He did well at Duke. I remember that. He was with. God damn it! He was Ole Miss quarterback coach Eli Manning. I forgot his name. He was a Tennessee assistant for a long time.
No,
I forgot his name.
But a lot of OU fans thought that the hire of Ted Roof was kind of a stopgap, letting Venables come in, somebody that he can trust. I believe that he was on the Clemson staff, maybe, or there's some familiarity. But Venables is the head coach, but he has a very big hand in the defensive side of things, and
as he should.
Right. I mean,
he should.
Best defensive play caller, arguably, the last probably 10 years.
Yeah.
And he just wanted somebody that he could trust to run his defense, and someone that was experienced.
But I never thought Roof was that great, though.
No.
Like, you watch his defenses, even with at lower level schools, and they'd give up 28 a game, and and the offense would score 31. They'd give
just
up
getting the job done. Enough.
They would be in the high 80s, low 90s at the end of the year.
Yeah,
that's just. I mean,
most places you get fired for that.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, look at Nebraska this year. They were 105th, I think, last year. Not this season, but the preseason. Yeah, before Rule came in. The year before, they were really bad, and they bring in Tony White from Syracuse. He brings his 3-3-5. They move people around, and they're a top 20 defense. They made that giant of a jump. Now, that being said, and especially in Lincoln, they didn't have a damn quarterback to save their lives.
Makes things tough. If you can't give 100%. Your defense a break. Yeah.
100%. You can't move the ball. Can't run the offense efficiently. Now they went out and they signed Dylan Raiola. I'm tempering my expectations with him because he's an 18-year-old kid.
And McCord, right?
No, McCord went to Syracuse.
I thought that they had landed them both. Okay, this is new to me.
They were going to get McCord, but McCord didn't want to sit.
Okay,
Because there was a possibility. He didn't want to compete. He didn't want to compete with a Raiola type because he didn't want that.
But Raiola he's a legacy.
He's a legacy kid. Yeah, his dad played center there, and he's actually, if you look up on the wall where they have the names and the numbers, his name and his number is up there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great, but also at the same time though, I'm like, that's a lot of pressure.
A lot of it's kind of like pro and cons. It's like, well, you have this kid that like probably has dreamt of being a Cornhusker his whole life.
Yeah,
coming in there and like not reliving, but filling your dad's shoes, playing there. But yeah, then you also have if his dad's name is on the wall, like it's a big deal, and like it takes a lot at Nebraska to get that kind of accolade. Like, I mean, you have several All-Americans, award winners, and like
you got Dave Remington's name up there, arguably the best center to have ever played college football. They named that position award after him.
Oh, the Remington was him. Okay,
that was him. Yeah. He's like. You know, his dad, Dominic, his dad played center there, and then he went on to the Lions and played there for, God, I couldn't tell you how long, his whole career. He retired as a Detroit Lions center, which, again, that's back when the Lions weren't very good.
Is this with the Barry Sanders days, or?
It was post Barry Sanders.
Post Barry Sanders.
It was definitely Matt Stafford time. But they had a couple good years there with Schwartz. I mean, it wasn't like, oh my God, they're spectacular, because that's never been Detroit until this year. Because they've actually got
Dan Campbell's a damn good coach.
Yeah, they're biting kneecaps. That's for sure.
Hey, it worked out for the Saints.
I mean, yeah, it did. But it's like you're looking at the OU situation. If they don't, if they're not going to fit into what Venables wants, then I wouldn't bring them in.
No. Which actually, I was looking this up while we were talking here. So they parted ways with Ted Roof, and he brought in, I believe, Zach Alley, and he is young. He's like 30,
which is great. You need that. They're going to work their tails off, and they're going to be hungry. Yeah.
He was supposedly Brent Venables' shadow.
At Clemson?
At Clemson. He was like a grad assistant, watched everything he did, and really based a lot of what because he's a linebacker coach as well. So I believe the last couple of years he's been at Jackson State.
Okay. Was he there with Dion?
Or was Dion at Jacksonville?
No, he's at Jackson State. Okay, Jacksonville State is Rich Rod.
Okay, let's see here. Let's see where he hired him from. Jacksonville State.
Okay, so he's a Rich Rod.
Mm-hmm. But, like somebody that's going to come in and run Venables' defense, knows it inside and out, from a lot of what I've heard, he's like a clone of Venables, like the same intensity.
Oh, nice. So he's pretty much choosing who he's going to have as his next D coordinator, but he's trying to get his feet wet before he goes down that path. Mm-hmm. Super smart.
Well, no, he's the defensive coordinator.
Oh, he is. Oh, okay.
Went from Jacksonville State to Oklahoma, so it's like, hopefully that works. It's a title. You gotta imagine Venables very much. It's his baby. So
yeah, he's gonna have a hand in it. Mm-hmm. But I also think one of the things that I think for them as a school is they should. I don't know if they do this, but I know they do it in Lincoln. Is they all sit down and game plan together as a coaching staff. Like the defense sits down together and the offense sits down together, and they all come up with a plan, and then they go out and they execute it. Right? It's not like, oh, I'm gonna go execute this. I'm gonna go game plan for this week.
Right?
You're gonna do this, because it opens up a lot of like gray area for these kids.
Yeah.
And even for the coaches. But if they all sit down and they say, okay,
there needs to be a clear direction.
They're great at stopping the run. We need to throw the ball more on first down and then sneak a run in here and there or whatever. You guys game plan.
Can you imagine with those meetings with Alabama analysts?
I don't want to be anywhere near that. I really don't. Like, they're not like those analysts, man. They get paid good for a reason.
Oh yeah.
Or even Michigan when Connor Stallions was there. Like, the dude, regardless of what anybody says about that guy, the bottom line is the dude knew ball.
Yeah.
and he knew what he was looking for,
Sure.
and he knew how to give the scouting report that Harbaugh wanted, and that's it. I mean, how else can you put it? They found ways to win with his scouting reports, even though he fucking cheated.
It's true. Yeah, those scouting reports definitely seem to be the game changer for Michigan.
Yeah.
That like they went from not being able to beat Ohio State, slipping up to Michigan State, and then all of a sudden they just are world beaters.
Yeah.
So,
but I think a lot of that too is continuity with that team. I think they were all young. You know, I've told you this before. I think Blake Corum is going to be a steal in the NFL draft.
Yeah,
the kid is so
running
good.
Back. Like I think you were saying he's like the best running back, and it's hard to argue against it.
Because Travion Henderson went back to school. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't envision another running back better than Blake Corum in that draft. I just don't. I mean, I've seen a lot of I have watched a lot of Blake Corum and not of the others, but that kid runs hard. He doesn't go down.
I love that.
He reminds me of a smaller version of a Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Or just anybody. Or like when Najee was in college.
And if you put him in a 2 running back system where he's like the end of the game back.
Like Dallas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or, with him and Tony Pollard? Right. Jesus.
The defense is going to be like, I think I'm good, man. I don't want to keep getting hit by that.
Yeah. And he's walked out of games with broken noses and stuff, and he's just like, you broke your nose, okay? I want to go back in. Yeah. And you're like,
are you a psycho?
Yeah. You're like, are you a psycho? But
but
as a football player and as a coach, you want kids.
I want as many psychos on my team as I can get. Yeah.
If I can't have a psycho on my team running the ball because he's not going to go down, then what are we doing?
Or a linebacker. That's like DNA. You got to have a psycho linebacker that's just jumping over the line.
Yeah. But like, you also need him to be on the outside of that. You don't need him being the middle linebacker.
No.
Those guys have to be composed.
That's true.
Let's just be honest about that. It's like on the replacements that former cop, you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
He just runs out there and just...
I got the ball!
Good for you. Give me the ball. Go sit down. You need those type, but you need them on the outside.
That's true. Yeah, no, you do need a solid leader that's not going to go either way. Yeah. The emotions don't get to them.
Yeah.
But...
At both levels, though. At all 3 levels. That middle guy needs to be... The middle on your defensive line needs to be
safety that's that
and you
way.
need a safety like Tyrann Mathieu for the Chiefs. He was one of those where...
a leader.
It didn't get him. He was just like, guys, it's okay. It's all right. We'll
ice in the veins.
Yeah, that's what you need.
But, okay, well, so... Going back to Nebraska, so any more new coaching changes there? I imagine after 1 year...
Well, yes, there is.
Okay.
They moved Satterfield from OC quarterback coach to co-OC to tight end coach.
Okay.
And then they hired Glenn Thomas from the Steelers.
Oh.
To be their co-OC co-OC quarterback coach.
Fits right into what Rule wants to do. He wants to just have this filthy, we're going to grind it out. We're going to just run it down your throat.
He was with Rule at Baylor. Mm-hmm. He was with Rule at Temple. Thomas actually was at the Falcons when Matt Ryan became Matt Ryan. He turned Matt Ryan into Matt Ryan.
Okay.
So, there's a lot to be happy about there as a Nebraska fan.
Sure.
But again, it's year 2. You still have to temper those expectations only because, in a way, we are starting over again. Because we're bringing in a brand new quarterback. We're bringing in a new coach. It's going to have different systems for everybody. It's pump the brakes time still. It still is. I see them getting a bowl game. I see 7 or 8 wins on that schedule.
Okay.
Because it's there. Because the culture that's there right now is really good. Because if you see what happened at the end of the year, we've only lost 4 to 5 kids in the portal right now.
Yeah.
That tells you a ton. And you got a bunch of kids that want to stay. They want to play there. They wanted an extra year to continue their growth, but they wanted to play for a coach like Rule.
Yeah, I mean,
he's done wonders there. And I know I've sent you a ton of videos.
Oh yeah, no, I mean his speeches are great. I mean, if you're ever have a chance, get on YouTube and look up some of the things he says. Like, it's very inspiring and hard not to go
like
running through walls.
Yeah, like I've watched some of them and I'm just jacked and I want to run through a wall. But like, you know, he's also a guy that loves football. And when the AD went looking for a coach, he's like, I need a guy that all he knows is football, loves football, likes to grind, wants to build, and
works really well in college. Yeah. Like that, the college age kid, like that he seems to connect really well with, and developing them and molding them.
Yep. And he's even said he's happy to be back in college and he's going to stay. And I think the NFL thing, if they would have given him time in the NFL, I think he would have done the same thing there. But he went to the Panthers, and that owner is a nightmare. Just seeing all the videos and all that.
Oh my God, yeah.
But if he would have gone to, I don't know, the Cardinals or the Texans or even the Saints, I think he probably could have done well. But who knows?
I mean, look, if you get a competent coach, anything can happen. And it obviously you have to have the players. But like the Texans, who thought they'd do what they did this year?
Well, yes, but also at the same time, though, you got to sit back and you got to look at the coach and be like, he's come from a system.
Saban.
Well, was he with Saban?
So we're talking D'Amico Ryans, right? Was he a Saban linebacker?
He might have been at the very end of his career, but I think he was pro before. I think he was in the NFL before that happened. I think he was with Shula.
Ooh, you're right. He's 40.
I think he was with Shula because he came in I think 05.
He was drafted in 06.
06?
Yeah, so you're right. So he played from 02 to 05. Yeah, that'd be all before Saban.
I think that was Shula at that point. But he comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree, and that system has worked everywhere it's gone.
Yeah.
It's the Mike Shanahan way of doing things, and it's always worked. It's always worked. You know, and he's taken his lumps as a D coordinator with the Niners, and then he figured it out, and then that defense was stellar. And they're doing that right now in Houston. They need to keep Slowick, otherwise they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, you gotta maintain the staff, but like to do parallels there, like I think Rule is the guy. If you can get,
of course.
I mean, he's building the foundation. I think he's building the team the right way. And honestly, kind of like the same thing that Venables is trying to do. You start inside out with the line.
Well, everything starts on the lines.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're playing peewee football or professional at the highest level. If you have a crappy offensive line, I mean, we both play Madden, you know, and go to a team that has a crappy offensive line and see how bad your team is. And you're just bad. And same with your defensive line. Like if you don't have those big hog mollies in the middle, plug in those holes, take like in Ndamukong Suh, right, where he took a whole offensive line on by himself and still got through. Like if you don't have a guy like that on your defensive line, you're not winning. And same with your offensive line.
And more specifically with the defense thing, like 3 or 4 of those guys exist at one point in time.
And I would say Chris Jones is one of them right now too.
Yeah.
I really think he's one. There's not very Donald's the other, but like Jones and Donald, they came from 2 programs that didn't get much press.
That's also very true.
You know, with
Pittsburgh, with Donald, right?
Yeah, and Mississippi State
with Chris Jones. But it does seem that Bama always has one of those guys on his there, and then now Georgia with theirs. So, but if you can have a dominant offensive and defensive line, the rest is a lot easier. And that's why, like I said, Rule, if you look at what he did at Baylor, each year, like it's progressively better.
A dumpster fire. I think his first year he had 44 scholarship kids.
Well, I mean, the Art Briles situation was awful. Yeah.
I mean, god damn.
It left that team in shambles.
But how do you serve if you're not a guy like that has that mindset of like we're gonna do this, you're not making it. You're just not. There's no way. There's nothing in anybody's DNA that says, oh, we're gonna be fine with 44 kids. No. That's like a backup at each position. If one of those kids goes down,
you're done.
You're in Fucksville at that point because it's done. You know.
But even another thing to show how well that Rule did there at Baylor, like Aranda, which I'd say, jury's still out on him of whether or not he's a good head coach.
He's a better defensive coordinator, in my opinion.
He took that team of rural players and won the Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
Like Petrie and
Tyquan Thornton, those kids. Yeah, like absolutely. Charlie Brewer wasn't on that team, was he?
He might have been. I think he was the quarterback.
Was he a senior that year? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was their biggest move, was giving the keys to the castle to Charlie Brewer.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah.
I think. What about Oklahoma? What do you think about Oklahoma? Where do you think they go this year? What do you think Venables is kind of thinking about with everything?
From what all I've seen, Venables is very much trying to foundationally set up Oklahoma the same way Clemson was set up, the same way Alabama was set up. There's a lot of things at Oklahoma that weren't there before Venables came as the head coach. Like, obviously, he was there before as the defensive coordinator.
Like what?
I would say it's being run more a lot like a NFL program where you've got way more people that are scouts and analysts. He's got they call it a soul mission program, which is all about trying to develop the individual, trying to create men. Yeah. Right, and so these are all recruiting tactics, right? You can go into a living room and actually have a conversation with the mom and dad, and not only are we going to be working on making him a football player, but we want to make him a man, and someone that's of character. So you see things like that, and I think obviously the first year was very bad, 6-7. I think we got blanked by Texas 49-0 because we didn't have a quarterback for that game.
But would you say it was a bad year they still made a bowl game, right?
They did. Yeah, they 6-6 going into the bowl game, lost to Florida State.
I wouldn't call that a bad year or a down year for Oklahoma, in the sense that they're trying to instill a new culture. They're trying to put in new schemes.
The culture that was there before, soft. Well, you talk about how Aranda had taken over Rule, and kind of each year after it's gone a step below. So Lincoln Riley took over after Bob Stoops, and with Bob Stoops players, they looked good with Baker, and then it doesn't hurt having generational quarterbacks one after the other with Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. But
I would say that when Riley was at OU, he was pretty much a quarterback whisperer.
Sure,
I would say that, and I would also say he might get back to that at SC.
Maybe.
We'll see. The kid he had throwing in the bowl game looked pretty good. If
they can get the defense figured out. But, with Riley, it's that it's not going to be anything that he has a part in the defense. It's he hired the head coach from South Dakota or North Dakota to take over the defense. Was that right?
Was it North Dakota or North Dakota State?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because I actually was.
It's a good move.
Yeah.
And it has to be.
Matt Entz, I think, is. No, the defense. No, he got the dude from UCLA.
Oh, okay. So he. But I want to say position-wise, he got a head coach.
He might have
to come be a position. And if you can do things like that, you got a head coach experience coach in a position. Which is kind of, all over the place.
It's what DeBoer's doing, too.
DeBoer?
Yeah, because he grabbed a running back coach that was the head coach at Buffalo. He grabbed a defensive coordinator who was the head coach at South Alabama. Mm-hmm. At some point in those rooms, you want people that have done it and have coordinated all these things, from game planning and all that, to be running a room like that. Because they are the reason why you're going to win or you're going to lose.
Would you say that Saban started all that?
With his analyst moves? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, 100%. I think everybody has looked at what Saban has done.
He changed the game.
Oh, 100%. He took Sarkisian, made him an analyst, and then he made him the offensive coordinator, and Sark is doing
what he revitalized his career. Yep. He did even that for several players. Yeah,
even
coaches,
Lane.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Lane was one of them. And the last one they thought they could do it with was Bill O'Brien, but...
you can't fix broken or stupid.
You can't fix an idiot, he's a far better football mind than you and myself.
Sure.
But it's hard to watch a Bill O'Brien offense, whether it's pro or it's college, on that end. it's just so hard.
It's like a Jimbo Fisher offense.
Jimbo.
Yeah.
Can you believe they backed the Brinks truck up, opened it up, and all that money comes spilling out, and he just sat there and goes, yes.
Yes. I mean, great for him, but like, even when that deal was made, I never thought it would. You can't give somebody guaranteed money like that.
No,
you gotta have performed to something.
And I feel terrible for Elko right now. I mean, he's walking into a situation where he has to win. He has to win. And he did well at Duke, but you're in a whole different conference.
Different animal, man.
Whole different conference. They should have gone. I think they should have gone with Mark Stoops there and given him time.
And not listen to the fans. The A&M fans.
Okay, so I would compare A&M fans, now that they're in the SEC, to the very old school Nebraska fans, okay? Because everybody was all on the Frost hype train when he got hired. I was not. Sure. I literally had a conversation to some guy who was selling me windows in my basement of my house, and he's an LSU fan. Asked me, he goes, "You think Frosty will come up there?" And I said, "I hope they don't make that hire." And he goes, "Well, why don't you want that hire?" I said, "He's only had 2 years of experience and one good season. He hasn't had to go through the adversity of what it's going to take to build a program like that." And it's not that I don't think he can't do the job.
True.
I just don't think he's ready. I just didn't. A guy like Matt Rule, who's been through all of that, is a far better hire than what Frost was. And I'm not saying Frost
got some experience, and like he's shown that he can do it. Yeah.
And I'm not saying Frost is a terrible football coach.
Yeah.
But he was trying to be the Oklahoma of the Big Ten, and the Big Ten just looked at him and said, "Hold my beer for a moment," and went out there and kicked the shit out of him. Because that's what happened. He didn't want to fire his defensive coordinator when they were 115th in the league. He didn't want to give up on that. He didn't want to relinquish play calling. He didn't want to do any of that stuff.
I mean, your stubbornness eventually will come back and bite you.
It kicked him in the dick, and he didn't expect it to happen. He thought he was bigger than the university, and then when they changed ADs, it was done. Because they had asked the AD, they said, "In what world on a win number would Frost stay?" And he goes, "There is no win number." He was basing it on everything, the culture of it all and all that. And I heard something, I heard a pundit that is like really close to the program get on one of the Hail Varsity stuff, and he was talking about how Frost was always late for meetings, showing up late for meetings, showing up late to practice.
I mean, like
going out
of
and getting hammered and doing all that, and there was like, it wasn't
that
just
trickles down onto your coaches and players. Yeah.
And the kids that ended up leaving were the kids that wanted
stability.
No, they didn't want stability. They didn't want to be held accountable for their actions.
Okay,
right? Because like, if they don't have that accountability before, what makes you think you want it next? And that's what it boiled down to. And I didn't see OU have a lot of turnover when Venables came through. I think they wanted more. They wanted more intensity.
Sure.
Because if you're a soft football coach and you're a football player, those two they butt heads like oil and water, man. They don't work.
They're very much was a culture problem at Oklahoma. By the time of Lincoln Riley left, like, it became soft. We could not push anybody around on the line, and it's Oklahoma. I mean,
and they recruit really good defensive and offensive linemen every year.
So it's like, it seemed like there's a cultural, there's a mentality thing that needed to be a change, and obviously, like Venables, we were talking about psychos earlier, that he's that as a coach.
Yeah.
Like, he is so demanding. He wants everything done the right way, and I think a lot of his that 6 and 7 year, I don't think it bothered him. I don't think he's worried. Because he's more worried about the long-term goal of, I might have a 6 and 7 year, but at least we're starting from the ground zero, exactly how I want to build this thing, which I think is the same thing that Rule is doing.
Yeah.
So he'll take the 6 and 7 because that built into 10 and 3 this year.
It's possible.
Right. Yeah.
It's very possible. It depends if Jackson Arnold is who Jackson Arnold is.
Yeah,
who they expect
a lot
him to
hinges
be.
on that, and a lot of people think, and I myself included, I think he'll be a great quarterback. It seems he has all the talent. It's just going to be a lot more of he needs the experience.
Yeah. Because they had to flip over OCs too, where they had with Luttrell and all that. I actually like the Luttrell move. I think it's a smart one, and I think who else did they move over to their OCs? So they have two of them now.
Yeah, Joe John Finley, he was Levy's kind of right hand man. We were able to retain him. He is an OU guy. He played at Oklahoma, but we bumped his title up to co-offensive coordinator with Seth Luttrell. So yeah, I mean, it's funny. OU's going into the SEC with a brand new offensive coordinator or coordinators and brand new defensive coordinator, but it doesn't feel like a lot's changed because what Venable's been able to do is, even though there's new coaches, there's a lot of continuity.
Yeah.
So
gotta have it.
There's a lot to be said for that.
You gotta have it. Like, Rules. They were talking to Rule at the end of the season, and they asked him, "Are you going to make a move on your OC, change it?" And he goes, "Listen, I could." He's like, "You guys have fired coaches here left and right for the past decade. How's that worked out for you?" And he's 100% right.
Man, Bo Pelini.
Yeah,
what could have been if they would have kept on holding on to him? I don't know.
Talk about a good football coach, but he couldn't take the press. That's really what it boiled down to, is he couldn't take the press.
Or even going back to who took over after Osborne.
Solich. Well, it all started with Solich.
Yeah.
I mean,
they pulled the trigger way too fast on him.
He went 9-3, and then they fired him, and I was like, what are you doing?
And then he just went on to Ohio and had a pretty good career there.
A great career.
Yeah.
He turned Ohio into something manageable for someone else.
Which is not easy to do there.
That's a different kind of job, and he did well. It's just these schools want to ditch these coaches after 9-3 because they don't win a title, and it's like,
is that more of like what Osborne had built Nebraska into, and then 9-3 just was not acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, if you look from like 90 to 2000 and like legit moves that he made, he changed his D coordinator in I think 90 or 91 to Charlie McBride. And those kids had we're going to pull my socks up, pull the socks up and put my fist in the ground.
And we're just going to run through you.
And we're going to beat the hell out of you. Mm-hmm. And they developed every kid that came through that program, right? That was from that time, I swear, I don't know if I'm 100% correct. In a 10-year span, I think they lost 8 games.
Yeah.
You can't replace that. No. You just can't.
Well, I mean, it's like replacing Saban. Yeah. Replacing Osborne. It's like, who wants that job after he's done? Because he's a legend.
The easiest job to replace right now, I think, is the Michigan job. If you move more up, it's the easiest job to replace.
You already have the same staff. I agree. Yeah.
Just keep the same staff there and do all that. Like, look at Arizona. They went out and got Brett Brennan from San Jose State.
They've been good.
They've been good the past 3 years, but before that, not so much.
When was the last time Arizona's had a year like they've had?
It was in the 90s with Brewski.
Yeah.
I would say. I mean, Rich Rod did well there for a few years.
He did. And Mike Stoops was there for a couple of years.
He didn't do well at all. That was they kept him there far too long, and it was not good. But give the young kid a chance, give Brennan a chance, and let's see what happens. It's funny because he was actually on Mike Riley's staff at Oregon State and did well, and then
his familiarity with the Pac-12 area, which I guess they're into the Big 12 now.
Big 12, but that's the thing, is how is he going to do as a Power 5 head coach? We don't know. That's what we don't know.
Where was Jed Fish before Arizona?
I think the Patriots.
Okay.
I think he was in the NFL. He's kind of bounced around so much, it's hard to know, but he was at Michigan at one point.
Okay.
So for him to go to Wisconsin, it's not a huge...
It's Washington, right?
Or Washington, yeah. It's not a huge thing. He knows the landscape of the Big Ten, but I think the team you got to watch out for in the Big Ten is Mr. Dan Lanning in Oregon, man.
Dude, I mean, he's a monster.
He's too good.
Because Oklahoma was looking at him when they hired Venables, and it's hard not to look at it now and be like, man, did we do the right thing?
But
still too early to say. I would say either way. But
I have to look at the loyalty factor of the whole thing with Venables.
Oh yeah.
The one thing that Venables has that I don't think you find a lot in coaches anymore is the will to stick through and the want to be there when the times are tough.
Sure.
Stick his nose out there and be like, it's on me.
It's on you. Yeah.
It's on me. My defense played bad. It's on me. I will get that. We're going to get this fixed. We're going to get that fixed. And it's on me. And they go back to work.
And I think he's shown that. And so you were asking earlier, like, what do I think Oklahoma's going to do? Defensively, there was a large jump from Brent Venables year 1 to year 2. And, like, certainly it was the linebacker play that you could see there was a dramatic change.
Yeah, with Stutzman
and Kanik, and then later on this season, Kip Lewis. Because I don't even know if next year Kanik will be the starter. It sounds like it'll probably be Stutzman and Kip Lewis. But
is Stutzman going to go pro? Because there's also...
He's staying.
Oh, he's staying. Because there was...
That's the most impressive thing is...
Second-round draft pick right there, yeah.
Venables has seniors on his team. And, like, we haven't had it at Oklahoma for a while. It just seems like as soon as, like, somebody has a good season, it's like, well, see ya.
Like CeeDee Lamb, you're having a good year, and then he's like, deuces, I'm out.
Right. So, like, Venables is, like, not only you're talking about loyalty, but he's, like, created that inside the program of, like, these guys want to stay there. And specifically, like, Stutzman, because he's a linebacker, wants to stay an extra year and be developed by Venables. Make that NIL money, which who knows what you're going to be making in the NFL. It's like guaranteed what you're making right now.
Yeah.
Get paid an extra year to develop and then go to the NFL.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, I mean, you got a degree.
That's true.
You know, and that's the biggest thing too, is these kids that leave early, yes, they go back and they get their degrees, but why not? Why not? You're basically getting a free pass to get a degree. Take it.
Take it, yeah.
Do it and be done.
I mean, what do I think OU will do this coming year? I think 9-5 or 10-4 is, I think, a pretty reasonable expectation. Yeah. They've got tough schedule. They've got Alabama. They've got LSU. They've got Tennessee. Texas is always a tough one.
But once you get past, like, the Big Ten and the SEC are the exact same conference.
Oh, yeah.
Once you get past the top boys, there's a bunch of filth in the middle of it that you can just beat the shit out of people.
They have Ole Miss on their schedule this year.
That's not an easy game.
It's not an easy game. And that one's actually down in Mississippi, which I was trying to... What's the word? The Grove.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, all these games outside of... I think they get South Carolina. And I'm like, they should be able to beat South Carolina. But...
I mean, nothing's a guarantee anymore.
I think they have to play at Auburn.
That's going to be a tough game,
That's a tough game.
It's going to be a tough game because I was saying I don't know if I've told you this, but if Nebraska didn't get Rule, I wanted them to get Hugh Freeze. I wanted them to because everybody would call me fucking crazy for that, but watch what he did at Ole Miss.
Watch what he's doing at Auburn.
And look at what he's doing at Auburn. He's just doing it again.
He gave Georgia a game. He gave Bama a game. Like, yeah.
Boy knows ball.
He knows ball.
And he knows how to coach. And it's hard to not sit there and say that you don't want him to be the leader of your program.
Yeah. And we just got to hope that, well, I mean, what was it at Ole Miss? It was recruiting violations and all of that, which you don't even have to worry about anymore.
No, because everybody was doing it at that time. You just got caught.
I mean, that's
the thing.
That was the sacrificial lamb because they're not going to go after Saban or...
No, they're not going to
At that time, who was it? Les Miles? Or
Yeah, well, Miles has his own problems. But no, they weren't. No way was that going to happen.
No. But, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what the next season holds. Obviously, there's still a lot of time before then. There's a whole other... We're not even through with the transfer portal with all the coaches leaving right now.
I mean, they can grab those kids out of there whenever they want, but...
The tampering.
Yeah, there's been so much tampering going on with that whole thing, and it's just insane.
What was it, the Alabama player saying that Iowa reached out to him in the middle of the season? Yeah. There's he's on tape talking about that.
Yeah, and then Braylon Allen from Wisconsin was he's like, I had to block a ton of numbers because all these schools were calling me and telling me to hit the portals and they were going to offer me this or that. And he was like, I don't want to leave Wisconsin.
And that's a good thing. Like, hopefully the head coaches and who's there at Wisconsin? Fickle.
Who's also, they were saying if it wasn't Rule, it would have been Fickle. And it would have been flip-flopped with Wisconsin and Nebraska. But I think for Rule, the better fit is Nebraska than Wisconsin.
I agree.
Because you're gonna have a longer runway. Wisconsin, you're not.
I feel like there's...
They will now with Fickle.
More opportunity at Nebraska than there is Wisconsin. And that's not a knock on Wisconsin.
No.
Wisconsin's a great program, but... Listen, Nebraska used to be a monster. They used to win national championships. Yeah. They used to have Heisman's, and that fan base is hungry for...
We want a winner.
Yeah.
We want to win. Yeah. We want to win. And it's hard to find, a better fan base than what's in Lincoln. Because they always say it's the best in the world. I'm like, hold on a minute.
Sellout games.
Yeah, but I'm still always like, hold on a minute. Yes, but there's also, with every school, you have...
The diehards.
You diehards, and then the people that are casual, and then the people that are just love the team and are cool with whatever happens. But those diehards, I mean, I'm on a Nebraska message board, and I'll get in an argument. I will... it'll make one comment, you're not a true Nebraska fan. I'm like, listen, man, fuck you.
Because you're being realistic?
Because I'm being realistic with them. Yeah. It's they're not going to make a bowl game this year. Fuck you, yes they will. I'm like, hold on, hold the phone, man, hold it. What
happened?
Where in this whole thing does it have that? Right. And you support, I would support Scott Frost because he's my football coach. Mm-hmm. Do I think he's the greatest coach? Absolutely not. Do I think he's going to turn around? Hell no, I don't.
Do you want him to win? Absolutely.
Do I want him to win and support him? Yes, I do. And I would. I couldn't tell you how many times I got into with some 70-year-old dude in Ohio because he's fucking mad of my take. And it's just dude, it's just a message board where we all speak our minds.
Right.
I don't think I've gotten on that message board in a year and a half.
Well, and these are the fans that grew up with Nebraska being in Alabama.
In the 70s.
I deal with it too, with the Oklahoma fans that grew up with Barry Switzer, and it's just, it's... What Saban did is it won't ever be done
in
again.
That short amount of time.
No.
In that short amount of time. With Nebraska with Devaney up until 2000, that was a 30-year stretch of domination. Yeah. And it's the same with Oklahoma. They had their down years when they had Blake
the 90s, yeah.
When they had Blake, but the minute they got Stoops in there, it was right back to the old way. Mm-hmm. Right? They had that stretch of 5 years in there where it wasn't good.
Was not good.
And then they had another 20 years of where it was great. And it's just, we're all passionate about our teams, but we have to be realistic about our expectations. Otherwise, what good is it?
I mean, it's good to temper the expectations because, man, I love Oklahoma. I want them to win, but at the end of the day, they're 18 to 20-year-old kids, and turning that game on. And
people forget they're kids.
They're kids, yeah.
They are kids. They are 18-year-old kids that are going out into the world for the first time, and they're trying to figure it out. And I told you this when Dylan committed to
Georgia.
To Lincoln, to Nebraska.
Okay.
And some Georgia fan, there was one realistic Georgia fan, he's like, best of luck to you. I think you'll do great, all that. A real fan, I was like, I like you. Mm-hmm. But then there's so much hateful shit on his Instagram, have fun playing in the Cheez-It Bowl when we play in a national championship. I'm like, motherfucker, you're not even playing in a national championship this year.
It's true.
Don't say that to a kid like that, because he's going to read that and he's going to be like, oh, really? Because if it was me, at that age, I'd be like, oh, you think that?
Right.
I want to play you now, and I want to run you out of the building.
It's bulletin board.
I want to show you this isn't a Cheez-It Bowl team,
They very well could do that. I mean,
yeah, anything's possible anymore. So,
but I feel like we covered a lot of ground there for the first episode.
Yeah,
we're gonna try to do this once a week, maybe bi-weekly or
we'll try to do bi-weekly by now, and then
the season rolls around. We can roll it, switch it up to once a week.
Yeah, somewhere around there. We can make something work with that.
Sorry that we're not the all great Brandon Walker and do 2 or 3 podcasts a week.
He's such a dick. For those of you,
the greatest there is.
For those of you who don't know who Brandon Walker is, listen to Unnecessary Roughness on Barstool. You will realize he is talking with marbles in his mouth, and he's a bit of a pain in the ass. But boy does no ball. So
he does no ball.
That's the problem. He's a big Mississippi State fan and doesn't realize that they suck.
Delusional.
So, yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and check in next episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to you later.